Hunters Brady Penn and Steve Penn attacked by bear. The father and son were out on a hunting trip, savoring the peacefulness of the wilderness and the bonding time they were spending together. Suddenly, their tranquility was shattered by the unexpected appearance of a massive Kodiak bear. Without warning, the bear charged towards them, its intention clear as it aimed to attack and maul them with brutal force. I've been posting lots of interesting and informative videos about bear attacks on my channel. If you're interested in learning more about this subject, please subscribe to my channel. Brady, a senior airman in the U.S. Air Force, received a call from his father, Steve, who won a hunting lottery for a permit to hunt elk on a Fog Neck Island and was excited to share the news with his son. The island is a popular spot for hunting and fishing, known among outdoor enthusiasts. It has an abundance of wildlife, including the prized Roosevelt Elk, the largest elk in North America. Hunting permits for Roosevelt Elk are limited and highly sought after, making it a challenging task to secure one. The permit system in place on the island is intended to safeguard the delicate ecosystems by limiting the number of hunters allowed in the area. Only a select group of individuals are eligible to participate in the lottery for hunting permits, and the permits are specific to certain animals. Steve had finally been selected as a permit winner, and he excitedly extended an invitation to his son, Brady, to join him on a week-long hunting trip on the island. Without hesitation, Brady accepted the offer, recognizing that this was a rare and unique opportunity, and he wanted to make the most of the time he could spend with his father. In the lead-up to their trip, the father and son team made sure to physically and mentally prepare themselves for the adventure that lay ahead. They took on intensive hikes, honed their shooting abilities, and carefully crafted a plan for every possible contingency. Brady, with his military training, and Steve, with his decades of experience living in Alaska, knew what it took to survive in the wild. After months of preparation, they felt confident and ready for the trip of a lifetime. On the morning of October 12, 2021, they set out on their journey, eager and ready to embark on an unforgettable experience together. The father and son stood at the dock, their eyes fixed on the horizon as they awaited their mode of transportation to the remote island where they would spend the next week alone. The wind was picking up and the morning fog was becoming increasingly dense as they waited. The small seaplane could be seen approaching in the distance, its engines humming as it made its way towards them. It was the last moment of hesitation, the last opportunity for them to reconsider and cancel their trip. But both men were determined to see their plans through. As the weather continued to deteriorate, the father and son were reminded of the inherent risk of their trip. With the island's remote location and unpredictable weather, they knew that if any issues were to arise, it would be extremely difficult for an emergency rescue to reach them in time. But despite the mounting concerns, they were determined to go through with their plans. They boarded the small seaplane that would take them to Fog Neck Island, bracing themselves for the turbulence that would inevitably accompany the flight. Despite the rocky journey, they managed to arrive at the island in relative safety, ready to begin their adventure. The father and son stood alone on the remote island, the seaplane flying off into the distance. The pilot offered them advice before leaving. "That hill over there is going to be your best bet for a campsite. I'll see you in a week unless we hear from you sooner." He then flew off, leaving them to fend for themselves. The father and son quickly began to set up their tent in order to protect themselves from the quickly approaching night. They worked quickly and efficiently, managing to get the tent erected just in time as the wind picked up and freezing rain began to lash down upon them. Exhausted from the day's events, they eventually settled down to sleep, knowing that the next few days would truly put their survival skills to the test. The next morning, the men followed the trail and found a valley filled with Roosevelt elk, their prized catch. They set up their hunting equipment and waited for the perfect shot. As they waited, they felt a sense of awe at the island's beauty. Despite the harsh conditions, they felt lucky to be there together as father and son. They successfully hunted an elk and felt accomplished as they returned to their campsite. Despite the fading light, they pushed on through the dense forest, determined to find their quarry. Suddenly, Steve spotted a massive Roosevelt elk in a clearing ahead. With a single shot, the elk fell, and the men cheered. They had succeeded in their quest and were elated as they skinned and prepared their prize. The father and son duo were ecstatic as they approached the fallen Roosevelt elk, which they had worked hard to catch. They felt respect and awe for the animal as they began to field dress it for the journey back to camp. The true test of their survival skills was yet to come as they navigated the treacherous island with their prized catch. They set to work butchering the elk, determined to take as much as they could. They carefully cut and packaged the meat, storing it in a game bag hung in a tree to protect it from scavengers. They felt a sense of satisfaction and were excited to bring some of the meat back home as a reminder of their trip. Father and son trembled as a huge Kodiak bear charged at them. They raised their guns ready for the worst as the bear approached, but it veered off and disappeared into the woods. They realized the bear was after elk meat they had hung in a tree. They lost their game, but were grateful to be unharmed. They realized the danger of being in wilderness and vowed to be more careful. Despite the scare, they felt a sense of awe for the wild beauty of the island. With lightning-fast reflexes, the massive Kodiak bear charged towards Brady and Steve, its eyes fixed on its prey. Before Brady could even blink, let alone draw his weapon, the bear was upon him. The bear swatted Brady to the side, a searing pain shooting through his back, and the bear put its entire body weight onto his spine, trapping him. His rifle was pushed beneath him, and with the extra weight on top of him, he had no way of moving. Brady saw his chance and quickly grabbed his rifle, aiming at the bear's head. He fired, and the bear fell to the ground, dead. The father and son were both injured, but alive. They knew that they needed to get back to the camp as soon as possible to tend to their wounds. They quickly gathered what they could and set off on the hike back to the camp, limping and in pain, but grateful to be alive and together. The bear attack had been a close call, but they had survived and would always remember this moment as a test of their strength and bond as father and son. With adrenaline pumping through their veins, the father and son duo found themselves in a desperate struggle to survive as they were unexpectedly ambushed by a massive Kodiak bear. Brady was pinned to the ground with the bear's weight crushing his spine, leaving him trapped and unable to move. Just as he thought all was lost, his father stepped in, pulling the bear off of him and giving him a chance to fight back. With the bear now attacking his father, Brady quickly regained his footing despite the pain in his body and fired his gun without hesitation, striking the animal in its back hip. The bear let out a roar of pain before it retreated into the trees. The father and son immediately checked each other for injuries, never taking their eyes off the trees in case the animal returned. They both let out a sigh of relief as they assessed their injuries, grateful that they had come out of the encounter with the massive Kodiak bear relatively unscathed. Steve examined his hand, which had been punctured by the bear's teeth, as he had fought to protect his son. Despite the injuries, he was grateful that he had been wearing strong gloves, which had absorbed much of the damage. Brady's trousers had been torn, and there were deep claw marks down his legs, but he was otherwise unharmed. They couldn't help but feel a sense of gratitude that they had managed to escape the encounter with the powerful animal without any serious injuries. The two men felt shaken but alive after narrowly escaping a Kodiak bear attack. They were injured, but not seriously. They stayed awake in their camp, grateful to be back in relative safety. They reflected on how their teamwork and military training saved them. They knew they were lucky to survive and were eager to return home. The father and son duo were able to narrowly avoid danger thanks to their research and luck. They were able to avoid becoming a food source for a dangerous bear and ultimately return home safely.